Surrey Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Vivekananda. So I will start with the hymn on Swamiji, Sanskrit, which you have heard many times. I will sing 3 stanzas, and after each stanza, Parikshit will read the translation, and last of all again the Pranam Mantra, of which we will also read the translation. So I will share the image with you so that you can follow. Nityadrisheshu vivichanityam tasmin samadhata iha smalilaya viveka vairagya vishuddha chittam yoso viveki tamaham namami.
I salute that discriminating sage whose mind was purified by renunciation and discrimination, and to whom it was only play to separate the eternal from the non-eternal and concentrate his mind on the self.
Suryo yathandham hi tamo nihanti Vishnuryatha dushta janamshinati tathaiva yasya khilanitlalobham rupam tritapam vimukhi karoti.
Just as the sun dispels darkness, just as Lord Vishnu destroys the wicked, so is enchanting personality destroys the threefold misery of man.
Tam deshikendram paramam pavitram vishwasya palam madhuram yatindram hitaya nrinam naramurtimantam Vivekanandamaham namami.
I salute Vivekananda, the great sannyasi and teacher, the supremely pure one, who was honored by the whole world and who incarnated himself for the good of mankind.
Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya
sage and seer Vivekananda, the prince among sannyasins, salutation to the embodiment of Sat, Chit and Anand and remover of all sorrows.
Thank you. Now we will start from the narration given by Sri Ramakrishna himself, who was Swami Vivekananda, who brought him down to the earth for his mission. So these are Sri Ramakrishna's words. So this para Marita can read. Give this sheet to her.
One day I found that my mind was soaring high in samadhi among a luminous path. It soon transcended the stellar universe and entered the subtle realm of ideas. As it descended higher and higher, I found the path lined with ideal forms of gods and goddesses on both sides. My mind then reached the outer limits of that region, where a luminous barrier separates the sphere of relative existence from that of the absolute. My mind crossed that barrier to enter the transcendental realm, where no corporeal being was visible. Even the gods dare not enter that sublime realm and are content to keep their seats far below. But in the next moment, I saw 7 venerable rishis seated there in samadhi. It occurred to me that these rishis must have surpassed not only humans, but even the gods in knowledge and holiness, in renunciation and love. Lost in admiration, I was reflecting on their greatness when I saw a portion of that undifferentiated luminous region condensed into the form of a divine child. The child came to one of the rishis, tenderly clasped his neck with his lovely arms, and, addressing him in a sweet voice, tried to drag his mind down from the state of samadhi. That magic touch roused the rishi from the superconscious state, and he fixed his half-open eyes upon the wonderful child. His beaming countenance showed that the child was the treasure of his heart. In great joy, the divine child spoke to him. "I am going down. You must go with me." The rishi remained mute, but his tender look expressed his assent. As he gazed at the child, he again became immersed in samadhi. I was surprised to see a fragment of his body and mind then descending to earth in the form of a bright light. No sooner had I seen Narendra than I recognized him to be that rishi.
Thank you. So Sri Ramakrishna entered into a realm where even gods dare not approach. And from there he brought Swami Vivekananda. So that is why in many songs you will find that he is described as one of the Saptarishis, that is one of the 7 sages. And mention of these 7 sages is there in our scriptures. And of course that child who had requested him was none other than Sri Ramakrishna. So we will sing a song which reflects this idea. Vivekananda Namodari Mahan শত তোমারি শরণাগত, কত কত শত শত ভীত চকিত নর নারী, বিবেকানন্দ নামধারী। So now the Parliament of Religions. Many of us don't know much about that. So just 2 paragraphs, just an introduction, very short introductions to what was that Parliament all about. It was a huge event in those days and something which was impossible, because in a Christian world to hold such a parliament, well, they'll be inviting everybody, all the religions to, give their introduction to their own religion, was something, in those days it was unthinkable. And if you read the narratives there, if you read especially Mary Louise Burke's view, she has given all the details after she has done so much research. So actually why it was done? It was done because all the clergymen of the Christian world, they thought that when these people will come from the other religions, and we will of course also have our own priests, fathers and all, so without doubt it will be proven before the whole world that Christianity is the best. It is the only true religion. There is nothing to compare with that. So actually that was the aim with which the parliament was, organized. But something else happened, as we all know. So just a short introduction, Parikshit will read and put this there. 2 paragraphs here. From here. Parliament of Religion. So read slow speed but loud voice.
The Parliament of Religions, which was held in connection with the World's Columbian Exposition in the city of Chicago from September 11th to 27th, 1893, was undoubtedly one of the great epoch-making events of the world, marking as it did an era in the history of religions, especially in that of Hinduism. From all parts of the world, delegates came, representing every form of organized religious belief. It was not only a parliament of religions, it was a parliament of humanity. To unify the religious visions of mankind was the motive of the workers who made possible this assembly of religious ideas and creeds. And if the parliament had done nothing more than make the world of human society aware of the unity in diversity and the diversity in unity of the religious outlook of man, it would still have been unequaled among ecumenical conventions in character and importance. But it did far more than that. It roused a wave of new awareness in the Western world, causing it to be conscious of the profundity and vitality of the Eastern thought. On Monday, September 11th, 1893, the first session of Parliament was opened in the Great Hall of Columbus, where were seated representatives of the religious beliefs of 1,200 million of human race. In the center sat Cardinal Gibbons, the highest prelate of Roman Catholic Church on the Western continent. On the right and left of him were gathered the Oriental delegates, Pratap Chandra Majumdar of Bengal and Nagarkar of Bombay, who were representatives of Brahmo Samaj, Dharmapala, who represented the Buddhist of Ceylon, Gandhi, a distant relative of Mahatma Gandhi, representing the Jains, and Mr. Chakravarti, representing Theosophy with Mrs. Annie Besant. Among them was also seated Swami Vivekananda, who, with his noble bearing, bright countenance, and gorgeous apparel, drew the attention of the assembled thousands and soon became the cynosure of all the eyes.
So this is what the Parliament of Religions was all about, and now we will go straight to Swami Vivekananda. His introduction itself is actually to know about the Parliament in detail. There is a chapter in Merrill Wellberg's book. We can have some many discussions on the Parliament itself someday. So we'll have a very good idea. So now we come to Swamiji himself. When he stood up to give his speech, so what was the background? He has put it in such wonderful language, and with great insight is simply wonderful. So the moment was ripe with potentiality. The vast audience that faced Swami Vivekananda that day represented exclusively the Occidental mind, but included some development of all that in this was most distinctive. Every nation in Europe has poured in its human contribution upon America, and notably upon Chicago, where the Parliament was held. Much of the best, as well as some of the worst, of modern effort and struggle is at all times to be met with within the frontiers of that Western civic queen, whose feet are upon the shores of Lake Michigan as she sits and broods with the light of the North in her eyes. There is very little in the modern consciousness, very little inherited from the past of Europe that does not hold some outpost in the city of Chicago. And while the teeming life and eager interests of that center seem to some of us for the present largely a chaos, yet they were undoubtedly making for the revealing of some noble and slow-wrought ideal of human unity. Such was the psychological area, such the sea of mind, young, tumultuous, overflowing with its own energy and self-assurance, yet inquisitive and alert withal, which confronted Vivekananda when he rose to speak. So this is about the Occidental, those who are hearing Swami Vivekananda. But now see the contrast. What did Vivekananda represent? Behind Vivekananda, on the contrary, lay an ocean, calm, with long ages of spiritual development. So this was a new city. America was made up of immigrants. Many types of people will come, bustling, growing. But behind Vivekananda, the ideal he represented was calm. Calm with long ages of spiritual development. Behind him lay a world which dated itself from the Vedas and remembered itself in the Upanishads. A world to which Buddhism was almost modern. Such is the ancient heritage. A world that was filled with religious systems of faiths and creeds. A quiet land, steeped in the sunlight of the tropics, the dust of whose roads had been trodden by the feet of the saints for ages upon ages. Behind him, in short, lay India, with her thousands of years of national development, in which he had sounded many things, proved many things, and realized almost all, save only her own perfect unanimity. From end to end of a great expanse of time and space, as to certain fundamental and essential truths held by all her people in common. So, this unity among diversity, she says, even India did not realize that the people of India also did not realize how so many people of so many languages, so many beliefs, so many cultures, what was unity, what was unifying them, what was the common thread which ran amongst them, and that they had to learn from Swami Vivekananda. So he not only unified the people of India, but he also unified the whole world by pronouncing the great truth that all religions, there is no great or small religion in the world. All religions are valid paths. They are all great because they all lead to God if followed properly. So now we will, after that, we will read himself Swamiji's description. Swamiji, because he had written in a letter what was happening inside him when he stood up to give that speech. So we will read this after a song.
The Swami himself describes the Swami himself describes in a letter dated November 2nd to his disciple Alasinga Perumal the opening of the parliament and his own state of mind in replying to the address of welcome offered to the delegates. On the morning of the opening of the parliament, we all assembled in a building called the Art Palace, where one huge and another smaller temporary halls were erected for the sittings of the parliament. Men from all nations were there. From India were Mazumdar of Brahmo Samaj and Nagarkar of Bombay, Mr. Gandhi representing the Jains, and Mr. Chakravarti representing Theosophy with Mrs. Annie Besant. Of these men, Mazumdar and I were, of course, old friends, and Chakravarti knew me by name. There was a grand procession, and we were all marshaled onto the platform. Imagine a hall below and a huge gallery above, packed with 6 or 7,000 men and women representing the bad culture of the country. The bad culture of the country?
Bad?
Okay.
Bad culture.
Yeah. And on the platform, learned men of all nations on the earth. And I, who never spoke in public in my life, to address this august assemblage. It was opened in great form with music and ceremony and speeches. Then the delegates were introduced one by one, and they stepped up and spoke. Of course, my heart was fluttering and my tongue nearly dried up. I was so nervous and could not venture to speak in the morning. Mazumdar made a nice speech, Chakravarti a nicer one, and they were much applauded. They were all prepared and came with ready-made speeches. I was a fool and had none, but bowed down to Devi Saraswati and stepped up, and Dr. Barrows introduced me. I made a short speech, and when it was finished, I sat down almost exhausted with emotion. As we know from what Swamiji had written, he kept putting off his speech, but at length, in the late afternoon, when the chairman insisted, the Swami rose and bowed down to Saraswati, the goddess of learning. His face glowed like fire. His eyes surveyed in a sweep the huge assembly before him. When he opened his lips, his speech was like a tongue of flame. Hardly had he pronounced the very simple opening words, "Sisters and brothers of America," when hundreds rose to their feet with deafening shouts of applause. The parliament had gone mad, everyone cheering the Swami enthusiastically. For 2 minutes he attempted to speak, but the wave of wild enthusiasm created this significant form of address prevented it. Commenting on the reception accorded to the Swami's first appearance before the Parliament, the Reverend John Henry Barrows wrote in The World's Parliament of Religions, when Mr. Vivekananda addressed the audience as Sisters and Brothers of America, there arose a peal of applause that lasted for several minutes. Another eyewitness, Mrs. S.K. Blodgett, later recalled, when that young man got up and said, "Sisters and Brothers of America," 7,000 people rose to their feet as a tribute to something they knew not what.
So this must have been the first occasion in the whole world, and don't think it has been repeated, when a person has not even started his speech. He has not said a single word. He has just said "Sisters and Brothers of America," that's all. And just one line caused such a tremendous enthusiasm in all the people that we cannot actually have any idea what 2 minutes are like. So when I once had gone in Hyderabad to speak at a youth convention and all, so there their head Swami did a very nice experiment. He was sitting on the stage, he told all of us to start clapping. So we were wondering, what is this word clapping? To start clapping, okay. So we started. So after maybe 5 seconds, enough, no, keep on. So everybody got tired of clapping. Then he said, "Now stop." He said, "For how long you've clapped, do you have an idea?" It seemed like eternity. He said, "Only 2 minutes you have clapped." So for 2 minutes, 2 minutes is not for applause. So this was unthinkable. You cannot explain it. That when a person has not said a single word of his address, so this shows that invisible power behind Swamiji. So when actually Swamiji returned to India and all the news was going to his brother's disciples, the news was reaching. So the text of the speech also reached them. So they found that what Swamiji has spoken in such simple words was very different from the language he used to speak in India. Then they asked him that how is the big difference? What is used to speak in such philosophical terms and all there. What is the sudden? Then he said, do you think I spoke there? Because Sri Ramakrishna spoke through me. See the power behind Swami Vivekananda. Power was of God, it's God Himself. So we will sing another song and then the final reading regarding Swami Vivekananda's effect which Swami Vivekananda's speech had.
Swami Vivekananda was certainly the first to cast off the formalism of the Congress and speak to the audience in the language for which they were waiting. When silence was restored, the Swami greeted the youngest of the nations in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world, the Vedic order of sannyasis, and presented Hinduism as the mother of religions. A religion which had taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. He quoted two beautiful illustrative passages taken from the scriptures of Hinduism. As the different streams having their sources in different places all mingle their water in the sea, so, O Lord, the different paths which men take through different tendencies, various though they may appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee. Whosoever comes to me through whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through paths which in the end lead to me. It was only a short speech, but its spirit of universality, its fundamental earnestness and broad-mindedness completely captivated the whole assembly. There were other Hindu delegates who stood for societies or churches or sects, but the Swami, who belonged to no sect but rather to India as a whole, proclaimed the universality of religious truths and the sameness of the goal of all religious realizations. In the course of his illuminating addresses during the sessions of the Parliament, the Swami placed before the distinguished audience the cardinal truths of Vedanta, the universal religion of humanity. He said, if there is ever to be a universal religion, it must be one which will have no location in place or time, which will be infinite, like the God it will preach, and whose sun will shine upon the followers of Krishna and Christ, on saint and sinners alike, which will not be Brahminic or Buddhistic, Christian or Mohammedan, but the sum total of all these, and still have infinite space for development, which in its Catholicity will find a place for every human being, from the lowest groveling savage not far removed from the brute to the highest man, towering by the virtues of his head and heart, almost above humanity. It will be a religion which will have no place for persecution or intolerance in its polity, which will recognize divinity in every man and woman, and whose whole scope, whose whole force will be centered in aiding humanity to realize its own true divine nature. Offer such a religion, and all the nations will follow you. The Christian is not to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, nor a Hindu or a Buddhist to become a Christian, but each must assimilate the spirit of others and yet preserve his individuality and grow according to his own law of growth. The Parliament of Religions, he concluded, had shown to the world that holiness, purity, and charity were not the exclusive possession of any church in the world, and that every system had produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreamt of the exclusive survival of his own religion and the destruction of others, he was to be pitied and told that upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension. The effect of these mighty words was tremendous. Over the heads of the official representatives of the parliament, they were addressed to a wider public, and Swami Vivekananda at once became the most celebrated personality of the parliament. The American press rang with his fame. The best known and most conservative of the metropolitan newspapers proclaimed him a prophet and a seer. The New York Herald referred to him as undoubtedly the greatest figure in the Parliament of Religions, and added, "After hearing him, we feel how foolish it is to send missionaries to this learned nation." The news of Swami Vivekananda's unparalleled success soon poured to India as well. Indian journals and magazines from Madras to Almora, from Calcutta to Bombay, were filled with American reports of his triumph at the parliament. The happiness of the monks of the Ramakrishna order at Boranagar knew no bounds when they came to learn that it was their beloved leader who had taken the new world by storm. The citizens of Calcutta organized a great representative meeting in the town hall to thank the Swami and the American people. The name Vivekananda rang with acclaim throughout the length and breadth of India. Everywhere he was recognized as the man who had come to fulfill a great need. The unknown monk without titles and ties blossomed into a world figure and became the man of the hour.
Thank you. So actually now, after so much time, we have no idea of the circumstances which existed then, not only in America but maybe throughout the world. So dogmatic, people were so dogmatic, and they never thought that anything could be outside their own, small world, either religion or culture or anything. Even now in some countries, when they say foreigner, their face will become ugly. Foreigner means anything good which is in my world, there is nothing outside. So, although we may not realize, but this upheaval, Swami Vivekananda had a lot of contribution for the changes which have come. It was so bad that once when Swami Vivekananda was just walking on the streets in Chicago, he attired in Indian with his turban and all. One person came full disturbance from here. For no reason. Swami Vivekananda is saying, what happened? You know what he said? Why have you dressed up like that? So even in dress, what we wear, what our people wear, that is the only good thing. All others are strange. That was the condition. Not all, but many people had that narrow outlook. So on one hand, he taught them this feeling of liberalism and acceptance, and on the other hand, he woke up his own countrymen. Because of the English rule and first the Mughal rule, English rule, all Indians had completely forgotten their own culture. So you'll be surprised to know that when there was first the news reached India that a Parliament of Religions is going to be held. So some people said, oh, you send a representative of Hinduism. So people very high in social circles, editors of magazines and all, they said, are you crazy? What does Hinduism have? What do we have? We have nothing. So according to them, all that was good in India was due to the foreigners. Even in religion, even in culture. So first in the Rajgopalachari has said, Swami Vivekananda saved Hinduism, and by saving Hinduism he saved India. Because religion is the backbone of our country in India. So once that goes, everything is gone. This is a very interesting study, and later we can go into details also. So today I will show a new, which we have not sung before. In South India they call this Namavali. So like we have done Radhe Radhe Sham Milade. Similarly, you just repeat. So it's just a small. It is a small Namavali of just 3 lines. But I was searching for some Namavali on Vivekananda. So I found only one, this one. And by the singer, I could make out most probably he is from Karnataka only. I don't know which ashrama may be there. But before that, I will just sing one para of a wonderful song. It is a very long song, but it is so fantastic. But unfortunately, of course, it is in Bengali, so people who don't know Bangla may not appreciate it fully. So this whole song is just what happened that day. And the language is unbelievable. And it has been set to a very famous song, tune of very famous song. It is unbelievable, this what the person has written. What happened that day? So it starts with this. What happened on that day when Vishwa Manav Sabha, it was Chicago, Vishwa Manav, whole world. So it was a concourse of people from whole world. When Vivekananda stood up, what happened? দাঁড়ালে হে বীর বিবেকানন্দ ফুটিল জগতে উদার ছন্দ, ত্যাগের গৈরিক প্রভায় সেদিন ফুটিল কি এক মহান দৃশ্য, মন্ত্রমুগ্ধ চরণে তোমার ঢালিছে অর্ঘ্য নিখিল বিশ্ব, মুছে গেল আজি ধরার কালিমা, ঘুচে গেল সব ধর্ম দ্বন্দ্ব, ভুবনে ভুবনে বন্দিল সবে ভুবন পাবন বিবেকানন্দ, ভুবন পাবন বিবেকানন্দ. This is a wonderful song. If you hear the whole is simply wonderful. So this now Vivekananda, 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 Vivekananda. Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, 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 Vivekananda. विश्ववन्द्य तुम विवेकानंदा, विश्ववन्द्य तुम विवेकानंदा, विश्ववन्द्य तुम विवेकानंदा, विश्ववन्द्य तुम विवेकानंदा, वीर सन्यासी विवेकानंदा, वीर सन्यासी विवेकानंदा, वीर सन्यासी विवेकानंदा, वीर सन्यासी विवेकानंदा. शत शत प्रणाम चरणारविंदा, शत शत प्रणाम चरणारविंदा, शत शत प्रणाम चरणारविंदा, शत शत प्रणाम चरणारविंदा. Vivekananda, 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 Vivekananda. Vivekananda, 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 Vivekananda. Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, Sadguru Swami Vivekananda, 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 Vivekananda. Vishwavandya tum Vivekananda, Vishwavandya tum Vivekananda, Veer Sannyasi Vivekananda, Veer Sannyasi Vivekananda, Veer Sannyasi Vivekananda, Veer Sannyasi Vivekananda. Shat shat pranam charanaravinda, shat shat pranam charanaravinda, shat shat pranam
Amen.